gives us a chance to meet some boundary-breaking, change-making individuals who remind us that we all have the power to reach beyond the bubble of our daily lives, to learn from locals in far-flung places, and to create new opportunities through travel. These are the people we're celebrating. My name is George Stone. I'm an editor-at-large of National Geographic Traveler. I'm based in Southeast Asia. And it's a real honor to be here tonight to introduce you to a few of our Travelers of the Year. These are people on a quest, and they're striving to make a difference. So, first, I would like to invite Shannon ODonnell to the stage, our first Traveler of the Year tonight. Hello. Shannon is a blogger and a volunteerist extraordinaire, and you can follow her on alittleadrift.com. But her blog alone is not what makes Shannon a Traveler of the Year. While she was traveling and blogging, she studied ethical ways for other travelers to give back to the places they visit. She collected these discoveries and she published them in a book called The Volunteer Traveler's Handbook. She launched something called Grassroots Volunteering, which is a digital platform and a database of free and low-cost volunteering opportunities. So how did you evolve from a traveler to a volunteerist?
So it started when I decided to leave on my one-year round-the-world trip. I had already integrated service into my life. I had volunteered as a teenager, and I had volunteered, in my hometowns. And when I moved, it was just a part of what I was doing back in the United States. When I decided to leave for a year, I thought, why not keep that same mindset? And why not try to find opportunities not just to volunteer, but to be mindful of the places that I was working. And so I volunteered with some monks. That was one of the first things that I did on my round-the-world trip. Is there was a monastery in Nepal, and I taught them English for a month. I was amazed that when I arrived in these towns, there were connections that I could make and ways to be useful and helpful. And that's what's informed the next 5 years of my travels.
What were some of the cool ways to volunteer that you discovered?
So I tend to teach English or, volunteer in ways that my skill base does. I don't construct homes or things that perhaps aren't within my wheelhouse. There's conservation work, though, heaps and heaps of opportunities. There's also social enterprises, which is if you don't have the skills to maybe volunteer or the time to commit a month, 3 months, a year to a project, you can actually, and this is what I love to talk to people about, is if you have that desire but you don't really want to volunteer, you can support these social enterprises, these businesses that are addressing a social enterprise and a social issue in their own community. And perhaps it's a coffee shop and you go drink coffee. That's not so hard, right? And they are using those tourism dollars to then fund a project. And it's as easy as that to be able to support the local community.
When we first spoke a long time ago, you told me that one problem with volunteering, one challenge is it's not always delightful. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's boring, sometimes you don't feel you're making an impact. So how is a traveler to address that, a traveler who might only have a week in a country?
I think that it's a perspective shift. So you're not going to go in a week really see noticeable change in any way, but if you're there to be of service, instead of saying, I'm there to teach, or I'm there to, specifically work with this animal, and if that doesn't happen, it's going to let down my expectations. But if you go and you say, I want to be of service, you may show up, and it's happened to me, where I show up and I say, great, this could be really intriguing. They say, you know what we really need? We need you to file some paperwork. And you go, oh, okay, because I'm there to be helpful.
Yeah. So what are your next steps? Where are you headed now?
So
I know the answer. I'm excited for you.
Thank you. I'm excited and a little nervous. I've never been to Africa, and so in 2 weeks, I head on a solo overland journey for 4 months up the east coast of Africa. And the plan is to Grassroots Volunteering, the site that you mentioned, is to find social enterprises and independent volunteer opportunities. So to add them to the database, and other travelers who perhaps have just a week or two can use the database to find a project that looks intriguing and as a starting point to find cool things in that area.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor now to welcome Allison Right, a veteran photojournalist who has spent her career capturing the human spirit through her lens. Allison has traveled everywhere, snapping people and places And though there have been many sunny days in her life, you could say great exposure, there have been some unthinkable storms too. While traveling in Laos, Allison nearly lost her life in a horrific bus accident on a remote jungle road. It was every traveler's worst nightmare. But she survived thanks to the villagers who never left her side. Her brush with mortality changed the way she worked. She wanted to do more than, quote, make pictures, as she told me. And so 3 years after her near-death experience, she returned to the village that saved her life, and she brought along a team of 5 doctors and $10,000 worth of medical supplies. That act was her first foray as a founder of the Faces of Hope Fund. She now runs a global nonprofit that helps support women and children in crisis areas throughout the world. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
How did the horrific accident change you as a traveler and as a person?
I was doing a lot of, besides travel stories, nonprofit, aid, humanitarian work. So in that regard, I'm doing the same kind of work, but now it's brought a whole new empathy to the work. You hope that making a photo will create an awareness and make a difference. And that's what I did with this Faces of Hope Fund. You know, as I go around, I speak about, you know, these people that are in need, and like this child and a Burmese refugee in Thailand, that I wanted to give people a place to go to, that they could donate, that they could help. And then with financial resources, I could give money back to the communities that I was photographing in to directly help them.
When we spoke a while ago, you talked about Faces of Hope and how they could be both the people who are helping, but also the people who are being helped, but also those who are helping.
Yes, it's people like my friend, one of my heroes, Olga Murray, that, you know, she almost single-handedly stamped out girls being sold into bonded labor in Nepal by giving piglets to families so that they would sell the piglet instead of the girl child at the end of the year, which is a sad statement about what a girl is worth in Nepal. But I'm very struck by people that are out there making a difference, and these are the kind of people and small organizations grassroots organizations that I'm supporting. Most recently, I was actually on a National Geographic assignment when I discovered these Burmese refugees that were working as basically indentured servants and right in our near our hotel, and so I stayed to photograph that. Now I'm helping them get a mobile medical unit. So it's just wanting to give back even more and helping support the people that are really out there making a difference, that they're the ones that are creating change.
When you said that you're alive today because of the kindness of strangers, it really moved me. Tell me about that.
You know, when I was, this accident that I was in Laos was on a very remote jungle road in Laos. And these villagers cared enough to bring me into their village and sew my arm back up with a needle and thread, an upholstery needle. No sutures, no painkillers, nothing. I had broken my back, my pelvis, all my ribs. I had so many broken bones, major internal injuries. I was to the point where I realized I was not going to get out of the situation alive, that I wrote a note to my family and I told them how I died and where I died. And I wanted them to know that I didn't die alone and in fear. And that, you don't get closer than that. Like dipping my toe into feeling my own mortality like that has been a touchstone for me, for the rest of my life now, you know? And just thinking, you know, what, you know, not only did they change my life, but then a British aid worker just happened to come by, found me, drove me 8 hours in the back of his pickup truck all the way to Thailand. So he was instrumental in saving my life as well, as was the one doctor in this border hospital. And so every day I think, what kindness would you do for a stranger? What kindness would I do for a stranger, you know? So.
And how can people help Faces of Hope Fund?
They can go to facesofhope.org and look at some of the projects that I have photographed. And a little bit is a trust for me, because as I go around the world, I don't know what I'm going to find, you know, but I feel the need to give back directly to these communities. But my next project is really going around the world and focusing on women and issues of the global empowerment of women at work.
Can't wait to see those pictures.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being with us tonight.
Okay.
Now I'd like to welcome a travel educator, Tracy Fraley. So just about a third of Americans have a passport. And this is a problem, not least because in Canada, 70% of the people have one. But it's a problem because it limits our horizons. Tracy has a big vision. She wants to put passports in the hands of almost everyone. And she's starting local. She's based in Oakland, California, and she realized that the challenge to passport ownership isn't merely monetary, but it's also about worldview, how to travel, where to travel, how to get going. All these problems are even more pronounced in poor urban areas. So Tracy's solution was to launch a Passport Party project. This is a grassroots initiative to provide underserved girls the tools they need to obtain their first passports. When the program's first phase wrapped up last summer, 100 girls had their first passports, and 6 young girls made their first international journey to Belize, which had to be a lot of work for you. Yeah. And now Tracy is busy plotting the next phase of the Passport Party project. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you get this idea?
I actually was taking a group of girls to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And while you don't need a passport to get there, I found that only one of them out of the group had a passport. That piqued my interest. And about 6 months later, I just took a group of kids in my neighborhood, and we had a travel awareness day. And then I was able to give them the money out of my purse to get their very first passports.
And how do you see travel changing these young people?
It turned into a rite of passage. There's this shift that occurs when these girls get a passport, and it's not necessarily about getting on a plane or a train or a bus, but it's the idea that they can, and that the world is now available to them. I find that the kids, surprisingly enough, when you line them up and ask them all where they want to go, they're shouting out, I want to go to Paris, I want to go to Hong Kong, I want to go. They know where they want to go. Yeah. It's just a matter of fostering their dreams.
They're learning geography in school?
They are learning geography in school. I think that this program, what it does is it gives them a reason to want to be in geography class or in history class. And that little blue book has a lot of power.
Yeah. And so is there any particular story that you find really summarizes the possibility and potential of any individual traveler who's just surpassing joy of being someplace?
Well, these were the 6 girls that I took to Belize. Every one of them is special for a very different reason. The young lady in the front, Jasmine, actually, I'm personally funding a trip for her to go to Paris. She's a budding photographer. She was in the Nat Geo photo with me, and she got to assist a National Geographic photographer, which was huge for her, and is keeping her motivated. Her mom just told me the other day that the one thing that, you know how teenagers are, they're interested in this and this and this and this, but the one thing that she notices is that she hasn't put her camera down since that day. So I think that the impact isn't always immediate. It's something that you see over time. So when I'm able to follow up with them, I'll be back.
Sounds like you will be back. Well, congratulations,
Thank
and
you.
I'm excited for your next steps.
Thanks. Yeah, next steps, I'm working on phase 2 right now. I was awarded $2,000 by American Express in their passion project.
That's very good.
And that's going to fund the first 10 passports for phase 2.
That's cool.
Yes.
Well, I'll see you around the world.
Thank you, John.
All right. Now I'd like to welcome 2 Travelers of the Year who worked together on one project, Molly Burke and Moyambi Moyambi. They met while they were both undergraduates at Bucknell University in Pennsylvania. Moyambi is from southern Uganda, and Molly is from New York. They discovered that they loved to travel, they love nooks and crannies, and they also love bicycles. They saw an opportunity to merge their passions and their interests and their worlds when, in a dorm room, they launched an organization called Bicycles Against Poverty. This organization uses a microfinance model to distribute bikes in rural Uganda. So far, the nonprofit has distributed about 830 bikes to low-income entrepreneurs who make monthly payments of $3 to cover the price of a bike. How do bikes help alleviate poverty?
A bike in Uganda is a life-saving tool because we work in these remote areas where they're hours from the nearest health clinic, they're hours from markets to make a living, from clean water, from education. There's a man in a village, Bilipi, that we work in, and his name is Onek. And Onek has a 4-year-old son. He started coughing one day, his 4-year-old son, Aboya, and his cough persisted. And when you live in a remote area where healthcare is, like I said, hours, walks away, you don't take a child to the hospital for just a cough. His son is growing thinner and thinner, and then he starts coughing up blood. But Onek didn't have a bicycle. So in the morning, he picks up his 3-year-old son and he carries him for 6 hours. So what we do is we provide bikes because bikes are alleviating poverty by getting people access to medical care. With farmers who have 100 pounds of crops, throw it on the carrier, it's absolutely life-changing for people who are cut off from resources.
You shared with us a really cool video that I think puts into context your work, so I'd like to show that now.
There are villages deep in rural Africa, a way of life that remains difficult. But our lives have tremendous potential. It's not a lack of money that holds us back, but the distance from where we live to where we can find opportunities, like work and education. This story is about an answer, about taking responsibility for our future, about taking responsibility for ourselves. This story is of bicycles. This is a story of bicycles against poverty.
That was a really cool video, and it shows so much. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you came up with this idea.
The story Mori just shared right now is not particular to one family that she talked about. It was the same case with my family, and all families around the area I lived in grew up in southern Uganda, as you mentioned. In particular, my mom couldn't get to the hospital really easily when she was sick. So we needed to get a bicycle every time she was sick. And you know, when sickness hits, it doesn't tell you when it's gonna come. She would get sick in the night and you would have to deal with it right there and then. So going through that kind of, I think, put something in my mind. And when I had the opportunity to come to this great country, as you know, land of opportunities, right? You know, I figured I had to do something. And beyond that, other people believed in what we were trying to do. They believed in the power of the bicycle to change lives. And one of those organizations is the Clinton Global Initiative, where we got our first seed money. From there on to now, we've never stopped. And people like Molly here make it what it is. And we hope to keep growing.
One thing that you told me that I thought was really interesting is, of course, you're a world traveler, but this project has also compelled you to travel within Uganda, within your home country. And so often we think about it, when we think about traveling, we think of going someplace far away, but sometimes it doesn't have to be so far to feel very far.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you have to. When I was getting started and thinking about the area where we work in right now, the northern Uganda, part of the country where I mean, I don't know if you've heard the stories, but this area went through war for 20 years since 1986. Right now, it's okay. You can visit, okay? So, exactly, please go. So, I didn't know, I had read the news. I had seen the news articles, just like you probably see things about Iraq or any other country, but I'd never been there, so I decided, why not? But I think everywhere I went, the common thing I saw was that bicycles were everywhere. Somehow, they seem to always find their way into every region in Uganda. So again, I think that also kind of stayed in my mind.
Molly, where is Bicycles Against Poverty headed next?
We're definitely very focused on expanding our organization within Gulu, which is in Uganda. That's where we're based right now, but we definitely want to look elsewhere, Kenya, Tanzania, across the globe, because ultimately, that's the scale of the organization.
No breaks for you. Thank you both, Molly and Mayumbi.
Thank you, George.
United Airlines and National Geographic has teamed up to create the Sustainable Travel Leadership Award. We're very excited about this new partnership. So here's their story, and it's pretty amazing. John is a lifelong traveler. In 1989, he bought 2,000 acres of coastal forest with the goal of protecting 4 miles of turtle nesting area. He established the Pakuari Nature Reserve at a time when nearly every nest was pilfered by poachers. Today, beach patrols have reduced poaching losses to 2%, thanks to you. And their once depleted coconut farm is now home to 30 species of mammal and 230 species of bird. But poaching remains a problem all over the world. And the Denhams travel from London to Pakuari to work with volunteers and field biologists to protect hatchlings and to push for policies that protect their coastal ecosystem. So thank you for being with us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me, how did travel help you hatch your plan?
Well, in the mid-'80s, a friend I met in Mexico said, "You've never been to Costa Rica. It's worth it just for the turtles." So I went to Costa Rica just for the turtles. And I must say I was quite smitten. And there's something very moving about seeing a turtle coming up a beach, slowly digging its nest and laying its eggs there. And then this magic is shattered when you see that the poachers are just ready to take it. And that was happening all over, completely uncontrolled, and there was nobody doing anything about it. And then I found by chance, pure chance, this wonderful area of forest. Well, it had been forest, it was a wreck, but with 4 miles of the very prime leatherback turtle beach. So I bought it, and it just seemed the logical thing to do. And that's the way it started.
What have you achieved over these years?
I think, obviously, the turtle poaching was the obvious problem and the biggest problem. And for the first few years, I don't think we really made much progress. 1995, I think we really turned the corner, and we got on top of it. And after that, we got really, the poachers were sort of on the run. And then for the last 15, 18 years, we've had our own guards. We have to employ our own guards. That's not armed guards. That's just they're just armed with a flashlight, a very powerful flashlight. But if we don't
They could throw it.
well, it frightens them off. And that's all. That's the only thing that keeps that beach free. We have to employ 6 guards for 7 months of the year, and they're patrolling night and day. And that's the only way to reduce and keep the poaching rate right down to 2%. So that's the very obvious improvement. The other, of course, is the forest. And it's amazing what nature does. It's a secondary forest except for a little bit of primary in the north, but it's full of animals and birds. It's a really high density of animals. And we've even had a jaguar we photographed at night. We had a crocodile nesting right now. But there are all sorts of animals, and some of them quite rare. And they've just populated the place, and it's a sort of oasis there. And that's very gratifying.
Hilda, could you tell us a little bit about the local impact you're making of your education programs and the preservation programs you're working on?
It's a very exciting project that we have now with it, because we have always had students coming from the UK or from the US. They would come for 4 days, and they are a very important part of the reserve. But right now, that was kind of teaching to the converted, because having all these wonderful people coming and they just wanted to help. But we realized that we needed to change the mentality of the people. We need to change what has been a tradition for many years. So we needed to work with children. So we have now a project that we get the young ones, primary school, they come for a day. And that is where really traveling starts. Just many of them, they live about 40 minutes, half an hour from the beach, but they have never seen the sea. They have never ever been on a boat. But then they arrive, and for them it's marvelous. They just go down the Tortuguero Canal, seeing all these different animals, and then they come to the reserve, and we take them around the forest, and it's fantastic to see how they learn and the questions they ask and how they pinpointed the different animals. And then we show them the importance of the turtles, of the life cycle, and the importance of really not eating turtle eggs, because it will be one little turtle less.
Right.
And then we also have another bit of the program is where we get these secondary schools. It's a different thing, because they come and they stay the night. They spend 2 nights with us. So they go, they do a bit of reforestation, and then they learn about the different species of trees, how to make a hole. They use the machetes, and they really have a wonderful time. And then they come, and then the biologists as well, they teach them about the life cycle, about what we're doing, and then they go out, they patrol. So many of them have the chance to see these amazing animals coming. Animals that haven't changed in 65 million years, that they are from the Jurassic. And for them, they just cannot believe it. And it does have a fantastic impact of them. And that's what we are doing. And we are also trying to bring the people from the communities as well to help us and to see what we're doing and to love what we're doing and do it themselves as well.
Well, I think thanks to your work, we're getting closer to that every day. So congratulations.
Yes, we're moving in the right direction.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.